think Johanna said that brilliantly, as she always does.
I like the way you talk, though. I feel like you do books on tape.
Yeah, so essentially, it will work the same at Tufts. When we review applications, we won't be able to see a student's race or ethnicity. And the reason why, and I think this is also a tricky thing to talk about because we wonder why, the diversity numbers are likely going to drop. And I guess I was trying to think of like some type of example I could use to kind of illustrate like the why. So let's say that you had, 100 applications. Like I were to put 100 applications on your table, and you're tasked with admitting, let's say 20 students, 20 out of 100, right? And your goal is to create a diverse mix of students, diverse backgrounds, diverse interests, so that you can have a rich intellectual conversation, right? So if we look at that 100, maybe, let's say, 40 of those students are biology majors, okay? Maybe we have 5 that are classics majors. Maybe there are 10 that want to focus on economics, right, et cetera. You kind of get where I'm going here. And if you were to start sorting through these applications, right, you have to remember admissions officers read applications very fast. Typically, they don't spend more than 7 minutes on an application. That's about, and sometimes it's even quicker.
We're talking
right?
about highly selective institutions.
Yes, sorry.
University.
Yes, highly selective.
The highly selective ones.
Highly selective.
Just by sheer volume, that's the only.
Exactly.
Okay.
So if you are going through, you're saying, okay, well, this student, they look great, they're a great fit, so they're admitted. This student, I'm not so sure, maybe we'll defer, we'll go to later. This student is a deny. By the time you get to your 20 students, and if you haven't been tracking how things are shaping up, you have no idea what it's going to look like when you get to that 20. You could have 20 biology majors, and no other major is represented, right? Major can be substituted for any other quality that one values, particularly at a liberal arts college and at a highly selective college. So that's probably the example that I would share.
Chase, you are brilliant, sir.
Truly. Isn't that exactly what happened in the California system?
Absolutely. Yes. So Proposition 209, I believe that was 1996. So we've actually already seen this happen. It happened at the University of California system. They banned all consideration of race, ethnicity, and sex, and there was a precipitous decline in their diversity numbers, and only recently have they began to make up ground.
Right, but I think like Berkeley and other higher tiered are still having a really hard time.
Berkeley and UCLA.
Berkeley and UCLA
Absolutely.
dropped 40% in 1998, which was the first incoming class that it affected. 40% of Black and Latino students at UCLA and Berkeley.
Yeah, and I think they're still having, those two in particular are still, if I'm right, having trouble.
Yeah, they are.
And it wasn't that they weren't applying, it was that they were getting selected out.
I think it's
from
both.
Okay.
It's both. Right.
They were applying.
I have a quick question. Yeah, I'm more curious. This might be a tough question, Joanna. Because I've had conversations with Asian American families, and they're saying, "Oh, it's a good thing." I've been trying to explain, "Oh, your kids will benefit from diversity. There's a lot of learning insight from that experience." So I was wondering what's the reaction that you've been hearing from families and how
From the Asian families, I feel like they have such a strong focus on academics that they're just, have you guys heard the term tiger parenting? Yeah. I'm sure you guys have all heard it. And so one of the considerations in the Supreme Court case, or one data that was brought up, was that Asian students were being scored lower in terms of like personal characteristics like likability. And a lot of the Asian community, I think they took that personally. Like they think, oh, this is just straight racism. Like you're just marking my kid as being less likable because they are Asian, not for any other reason. But this could be a personal opinion, but I think it's the culture. I think it's embedded in our culture, the tiger parenting especially, that perhaps it's the reason they did score lower on likability. Because of their pure focus on academics, they weren't developing into good humans, perhaps, and that's just a personal observation. So in the community, they are celebrating. I do see a lot of celebration because it personally benefits them. I was talking to Chase, and the data, the numbers are going to change. They have to change, or they're opening themselves up for a lawsuit, right? The common misconception that other people are saying is that nothing's gonna change, like Harvard's putting all these emails, and we're still gonna find like workarounds, whatever, but at the end of the day, the numbers will change. You see in the UC system, numbers were drastic, right? So yeah, there will be more Asian students in it, that's a fact. Whether they're celebrating or not, yes, of course, it benefits them. Who doesn't celebrate something that benefits themselves personally, just being
Quick follow-up question. Did the UC schools see a gender balance change? Since I just learned the part about gender in the 96.
Yeah, so I'm actually not sure. I think for the purposes of my direct job, I've kind of studied the impact on race ethnicity, but I'm not, that's a great question.
The UC school saw a difference between blacks. They were able to track African Americans within the following year. And did like a longitudinal, like 25 year, like a study where they saw that those who, the following year before the ruling, they did much better economically than the previous year, right? Than the following year. And so they were able to track that in real dollars.
Wait, so say that again.
So those that were in the UC system before the ruling did better economically,
Long term.
right,
Post-graduation.
than those afterwards.
Everyone?
African Americans. African
Admitted
Americans.
students who attended the schools.
Mhm.
Yes.
Black students who attended the schools.
And it was just, the opportunity just wasn't there. However, they also saw that the whites and Asian students, everything equally, there was no significant difference because one thing could have just been they had access, they had opportunity, they were also going to equally prestigious universities outside of the UC system. So it could be, I am Asian, both my parents are physicians, and it really doesn't matter where I go.
Right.
I
So,
guess I didn't really study gender as much. I feel like I heard somewhere that white males benefited the most, but I could be making that up.
So yes, so I know you asked a question, Kamal had a comment. I'm just going to be mindful that we're about to hit time, and so if we end the conversation without feeling like we've all had an opportunity to say what we hoped, we have WhatsApp and we've got Slack and we've got continued dialogue because this is the path to progression. So,
Yeah, thanks, David. And I hope you all share my strong sentiments around this, but the legacy, well, hold on. For the parents in here, you kind of finally make, I'm not recording myself. But for the parents, I mean, I thought, okay, well, I'm at Harvard. And again, this is not relevant to the topic, but I do think, because we're talking about affirmative action, right, this switch, it is relevant. My question is, one, do you think it's a fair trade-off? And two, what is the reality of legacy going away when so much of the endowment comes to
It's not gonna go away.
and I'm not going to give my opinion, but, yes. I got the panelists talking.
all right, so we all wanted to answer that. So I don't have, so like from where I sit, I certainly don't have an answer, right? Like I work with tremendous privilege, and I had a lovely, B student with great hair, whose parents were just beside themselves when he was not admitted to where both of them went to college. And I was like, well, he's like, how big of a, his parents just like, we thought. And I was like, well, you make 3%. And these Bs, don't go away just because the hair is good and he's nice. So, but I think that like there are
Those bees don't get degrees. From that university.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine in the world. Something tells me that it's gonna work out. But I think to your point, right, like people are asking questions about legacy. They have for years. It's been in the ether. And remember, like institutional priorities. Not all institutional priorities are affirmative action, and most affirmative action conversations are rooted around institutional priorities, right? And so if an institution it depends on, I think, a lot of larger factors, right? Endowment and goals and whether or not the pool has to be replaced and all sorts of other things. And if we need to have truly private bathrooms and suites and dorm rooms, like it's all, again, institutional priorities are going to drive those decisions. And so some institutions are going to feel more comfortable taking away those affirmative action policies based around legacy, and others not. And we won't know which ones do until they do, and so I think that's tricky, right? But that, to your point, right, like the thing that makes some folks mad about the Supreme Court case is that it doesn't take away preferential admission practices for all categories, just one.
Right.
And we're not asking why it's just the one. Right, you feel me? So that is, yeah, thank you.
That's great, thank you.
Well, I just want to add, because all of that is great, and that there are a lot of lawsuits that are coming down the line. Like Harvard specifically is going to be named in one. People are asking, and it's coming up. It's definitely part of the conversation. My opinion is like do away with it, but.
I mean, just take it easy, people. Like, yeah,
As the parent of a legacy.
yeah, it's like you gotta make it. They're like, you know what?
I'm a parent of a child who's benefiting from a very well-funded endowment. I want them to keep funding the endowment. The game has changed for my tiny human. Well, she's not tiny anymore. Because of legacy dollars. And I hope, Kamal, similarly to what you were saying, by luck of the draw, because nobody gets into Harvard, sitting in a room full of people who got into Harvard, but like nobody gets into Harvard. The opportunities that have been afforded to her, the doors that get opened. But I mean, as something as simple as she needed an eye doctor's appointment, and she emailed them from her Harvard email. And they were like, oh, we didn't know we had a Harvard student. Come on in, the doctor will see you. And the doctor chatted her up about her Harvard experience. Right?
Is your daughter a Harvard student?
Yeah. They gather their photos for She's going into her third year. But when I saw the lawsuit about legacy, that's the very first thought I had was they're going to stop giving. And the impact that I have seen personally, I mean, she gets invited into operating rooms by friends of friends who know that she goes to Harvard. She is working, like she's been in the meeting with Yale Medical and UF Medical, and simply because she is a student at Harvard. So would she have been phenomenal at the University of South Florida? I believe that she would have been phenomenal at the University of Harvard, but I don't think her eye doctor would have squeezed her into that. She had to get back to Harvard. I don't think that would have happened. So it is extremely concerning to me, not just for my child, because I don't think the $51 billion is going to go. I'm a little bit. Is going to go away in the next 2 years, but I think about the unfunded dreams and opportunities. There will be gads of untapped talent in universities around.
And I want to follow up with that too. And Jeff, you're not here, are you?
He was.
Okay. What is really interesting to me is that as universities put information out, is really looking at the actual cost of the return on investment for legacy admissions is much higher for some institutions than others. Right, so it's a relatively universal practice with a perceived return on investment that is actually pretty inconsistent. And so like Harvard could turn around and be like, actually, we don't find that we get more dollars because we admit legacies. So we're gonna like not, and we're still gonna get all these dollars, and our students are still gonna get squeezed into the eye doctor. But you might go to another institution, MIT or wherever, I don't know, I just think that one, that says, we actually find that we get a substantial portion of our endowment dollars or our donation dollars from families of children who've been admitted multiple generations over. So we're not gonna eliminate this practice. I think that we are at a real precipice of national conversation around what do we do with pathways and pipelines to social mobility. Is higher education the singular pathway? Are our practices of higher education the best practices? And then how do we ensure that we have the most representative population of students in these schools that reflect the population of students that are coming up? And there is so much work that we need to do at the infrastructure level that, to our earlier point, right, the consideration of race in the higher admission admission process is not actually going to correct this global problem.
Right.
We just happen to look at it because it feels like the easy target, right? A parallel example that might create is following the murder of George Floyd, I told my school that we weren't going to put out like a 20-page glossy on how we were suddenly going to be anti-racist, and I said it was because we're, you know, a $42,000 a year institution that can't afford to pay financial assistance to everyone who we would want, and requires an application process with a test. Like, we're not going to be an anti-racist institution. And I have a lot of other places that worked with me that were like, oh, we put out this glossy, what do you think? Like, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna fix it. You know, like, I have this, you know, non-binary person on my DEI team, and I think she's great. And I was like, see, there it is, stop, full stop, right? We can't put a lot of attention on the larger thing when we haven't yet figured out how to take the steps to arrive, right? And so we want to look at access and education as like the solution, but actually there's a lot of steps that get us there first that would be much harder to address if we chose to look at them. So this, as big and complex as it is the easy thing to look at, because it feels like it is everyone else's responsibility but mine. So thank you all. Yeah, come on, let's go to the panel together.
Thanks, David, for moderating.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone, and as I say often, the number one piece of job security that most of us have is racism. Get out.